Now remember everybody, put your safety glasses on because you can't hear boops. What steel is this?
This is 80 CRV2. Do you think we can harden enough to pass a destruction test?
Let's go find out.
That's my line. But yeah, let's go find out. We're gonna do the exact same thing to this 80 CRV that we did to 5160. If you haven't seen that video, it's a good watch. We're gonna put it in Fred over here, and we're gonna use this insert again so that we have an indirect heat on it. And then we're gonna stick it in Wilma to temper it. But first, we need to get this thing cut out. All right, now we need to profile grind this. So we're gonna go over to the grinder. We got this old profile grind here. It's a little under 3 inches, but that's okay. It's a little thick, but this is a nice little EDC. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get Fred started. CRV, it's been called 5160 on steroids. It has all the good stuff in 5160, but none of the bad. The tube is taking on a lot of heat, so we're gonna let that freaking knife blank just kind of heat up and warm up the rest of the way with the tube. I have the door open on here. It's letting a little heat out. Really, we need to get a good soak on this, about 10 minutes. And what that does, this is gonna give us a good austenitizing heat. Now, we can close the door on this and just let it heat up to 1650, which we've done in the past, we did with 5160. But if we can get this to soak at a nice low temperature, right around its quench temperature for 8 to 10 minutes, that's right on the money for us. And I think that's what we're gonna do. We could probably quench right in that area. It's a little low though, but we're gonna quench it anyways. We quenched it probably right around 1500. That's within the range of 80 CRV. Ideal range is 1525, but 1500 is still right in that range. When we temper it, we're gonna go at 425. We should still be okay. It had good color to it. It was homogeneous. We let it soak in there for a good amount of time. And we got it as close to like that austenitizing heat within a forge as you possibly can. You're never gonna get good austenitizing heat like you can in a heat treatment oven. But we're getting it as close as we can because we gotta let that heat treat oven cool down from 1525 just to temper in it, and that takes hours and hours and hours to do. So if you can use your gas forge to do your austenitizing heats in, I highly suggest it, because that saves so much time when you go to temper. You don't have to wait hours and hours and hours for your tempering oven to cool back down. All right, we're already cooled down here. We're going straight to the hardness file 65 on this. We're gonna test down here on the edge. Oh yeah, that's hard. You can hear that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, now we're gonna come over here to Wilma. We're gonna flip Wilma's switch. We're gonna temper at 425 for 2 hours. We're at 425. We're gonna stick our piece in here, close her on up, and we'll be back in 2 hours. We're going to pull this out. We just need to let it air cool. Testing is a little bit different. We're bringing back one of the earlier tests from Knife Steel or not. So yeah, we'll get this thing cooled down, and then we're gonna put it back in the tempering oven. We'll see you guys back here. We almost forgot. We need to do a differential heat treatment. So we got our torches. We're gonna heat this up. Now we just have to let it cool down. All right, now that we have an edge on it, we're going to strop that wire back straight. Okay, so we have a new test moving forward. We're still going to do the paper slice and antler chop and paper slice, but right after that we're going to do another impact test, a side load test. What we're going to do is we're going to lock the knife in the vise and hit it with a hammer. We get one hit with the hammer. If the knife survives, then we go on to the bend test.
Then we try to break it.
Then we try and break it. All right, you guys have seen this before. Paper, copy paper, blade. We're gonna run it through and see how well the cut is. Now we're gonna do impact. Gotta put that in there. Really reef on this old vise. Really get that nice and tight. We're gonna do 3 hits. We're gonna try and hit here, here, and here. All right, secondary. We're gonna see if this can cut the same. We're not expecting better. The same as before. Here's where it gets fun. This is going in the vise. We're going to put it in the vise about halfway. We're going to lock that down really tight. It survived the impact test, granted with a bend in it. We're going to turn that bend around and we're going to put it the other way. So we're now going to be loading back the other way. Now this could very well weaken that completely, but we're trying to break this, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, we're bending our tang here, so I'm going to bend that tang back. That's because of the differential, this being a lot softer than that, and we're going to go, since we have it's super wide, we can't get a good bite on it. We can't get down here on the blade, so that's just going to bend. So what we need to do is we need to find my claw hammer. The claw.
The claw.
All right, what we're going to do is we are going to take and move this up to the tip. We got a bend in it, and there's no deformation on the blade, nothing. We're going to go right there at that tip, and we're going to break this. Hopefully. We still need the claw hammer, so I'm going to go get a claw hammer. We found something better, Sarah. We found a big piece of pipe. What we need to do is we need to come over here, and we just need to use some persuasion here.
And bend the mother trucker.
Bend the mother trucker.
Bend the mother trucker.
There we go.
Woot woot.
Okay. Now, that's going to give us a lot more leverage too.
Yep.
All right, now we're going to break it.
They're going to break some crap.
If you're wondering at this point if the blade has passed the test, it has. It passed edge retention, the impact test, and now it has officially passed the bend test. Moving forward, we're going to break it so that we can take a look at the crack pattern and grain structure. Told you we were going to break it. All right, now that was an adventure right there. Let me tell you what. So let's take a look at this break. The first thing that jumps out at me is the grain structure. It's extremely fine, very tight, and has that silky, almost matte appearance that you want to see when you're looking at a fractured surface. We don't see any of that coarse, crystal-like structure that would immediately make me think we overheated the steel. Looking at this break, I'm pretty happy with the heat treatment. We're right there in the range we were aiming for on the quench. We tempered it 425 degrees for 2 hours for 2 cycles. From a blacksmith's perspective, looking at the evidence in front of me, I think the heat treatment did exactly what we wanted it to do. The fracture itself is where things get interesting. We don't know exactly where the failure originated. That's going to take a deeper metallurgical analysis before we can make any hard conclusions, but if we go back and look at the slow motion footage, it appears that the failure begins near the edge and starts working its way through the cross section of the blade toward the spine. And that's what really catches my attention. If you look at the two halves, you can see these shelf-like features where the fracture isn't flat or uniform across the entire break. One section appears to have continued tearing while another section was still hanging on. That's a very uneven fracture, and to me that suggests this blade was absorbing a tremendous amount of force before it finally gave up. Now, can I tell you exactly why it looks like that? No, not yet. But it's one of the most interesting fracture patterns we've seen so far in this series, and it's definitely something worth investigating further. Well, sir, I think that says it all. It's quite impressive.
It is.
It's quite impressive. So,
Yeah.
my name's Nathan.
My name's Sarah.
And this is Heat Treatment, and we'll see you on the next one.